Okay, we are back with our loom and we're ready to go ahead and start weaving on it. Hilarious enough, since I've seen you last, my 3-year-old took a bite out of the cardboard loom. I don't know why, but that's okay. I just shifted my tape and we're gonna continue on. Maybe I'll put it at the bottom, either way. So, with weaving, you can just continue to weave different colors, different yarns, different things back and forth all the way up and have these beautiful stripes and things like that. You also can design shapes and geometric patterns and things like that. So typically I actually do this before I put my strings on sometimes, but you can do it after too. So maybe I want there to be like, let's see, where's the middle one? Kind of right in here. So maybe I want there to be like a triangle pattern. And then maybe like a stripe here. And I can just come up with any kind of design. And basically these are going to be the shapes I put my different colors. Then maybe I do like a upside down triangle this way. You can come up with a lot of different things. So now I kind of have some spaces where I know where I'm going to put my colors. You can get a yarn needle at any of your local craft stores. This is a pretty big one for bigger, fatter yarn. Or if you don't want to go out and buy those, you really can just use your hands. I've done that before too, especially since our looms are a little further apart. They're not tiny close together like some more professional looms. So what I'm going to do is I went ahead and I cut a piece of yarn to start with. Again, you can get super creative with this. Sometimes I've had old rags and I'll cut them in strips and I'll weave with fabric strips, or maybe an old t-shirt that had a bunch of holes that I wasn't going to wear again. Sometimes I'll use like long grasses, hay, things like that, and any kinds of yarn or textile or thread or fabrics. Basically anything you have around the house, you can get really creative. I once made a really cool piece out of an old pair of jeans, which was fun. So basically how you're going to do weaving is an over, under, over, under, over, under pathway. So I'm just going to start right here and I'm going to go over this first strand, under the next one. So see how my yarn is going underneath that warp strand. So then it'll go over this next one, under the next one. So I'm just using my fingers and picking it up and putting them through. This is why the needle comes in handy sometimes. You can use the needle to pick up your strings. So I went under, over, under, over, under. So we're just forming a pattern. Over, under. So now I'm going to pull through. When I get to the edge of my string, I'm going to kind of hold it like that. Sometimes I'll even tape it to the back so I won't forget to accidentally like pull it all the way through. But I'm just going to leave a little tail. And I'll tuck these in later. I'll sew them back in later. But for now, I'll leave my little tail sitting here. So then I come over here to the end of my yarn that I'm starting with. And I'm going to go back this direction. Since I ended going underneath this strand, that means now I have to go over it. Okay? Because if I go back underneath it, it's just going to pull right through and the whole thing is going to disappear. I'll just like literally pull it back through. So we have to do the opposite of what we did for this first pattern. So since that was an under, it'll be an over. Since it went over this strand last time, it's going to go under it this time. So it has to be the opposite. And then again, watch what I'm going to do. I'm not going to pull really tight. Look what happens to my white string. It starts to pull in and it's going to be really hard and really annoying, and eventually the pressure is going to get to be too tight and it's going to snap. So we don't want to pull too hard. We want there to actually be kind of like this much space. Look how there's a little bit of a half moon right here. I'm gonna leave it like that. So I went under, that means over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And I'm always checking to make sure that the pattern, I'm not doing the same two things next to each other sideways or the same two things next to each other up and down. So what I mean by that is, see how it was over this one last time and then underneath it this time. So it needs to be doing the opposite thing this way and this way, like a grid. And then I push it to the top. Now I'm gonna go back the other way. So since I did under, it's gotta go over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. It's the same pattern. It's almost like we're sewing this yarn through the strands. And again, when I pull tight, I'm gonna watch my yarn, because I don't wanna pull too tight. And I'm gonna let there be that kind of half moon, and I'm gonna use my fingers and scrunch it back up to the top. All right, and I'm gonna keep going. Once I get a little higher and it's time to start making this triangle, what I would do is I would just stop. So for instance, it's not quite ready yet, but I'll go ahead and show you for now. If I wanted to start dropping a strand and start making this shape, instead of going all the way to the end, I would stop a little early. Now it's not ready for that. Look how it starts way up there. So I would need to go all the way across a few more rows and then I would start doing this. But just to show you, I can stop right here and drop this strand and just go around this one. And now that'll be my end. And again, I would want to leave my little half moon, but there this time. And then I would start moving in this way, and then I would do a couple rows like this, and then I would drop one more. Do a couple rows like this, drop one more. A couple rows, drop. So it takes quite a long time to start building up your shape. So then when I want to come in with my other color, I would start here. And I would just do these two for a little bit. Then I would do these three for a few rows. Then these four, and I would just fill in as it goes. So that is your next step of how to start weaving on your loom. Stay tuned. Our next videos for weaving are going to include how to really put these colors next to each other, how to add tassels to the bottom, because I'm working upside down, so eventually it'll be like this. And I'll add tassels to my bottom. And then I'm also going to show you how to be able to take the weaving off of your loom. So stay tuned.